So today, the purpose of the webinar is to talk to you about how to build your portfolio and how to best do your interviews. As I've been reviewing few portfolios recently for students from the Raffles Design School in Singapore, I realized that there were little tricks that you can use and that could be helpful for you to help you really achieving the best portfolio to be sent. Okay, so that's the purpose of today's webinar. So the first thing you need to understand is about the interview, okay? One thing that I really want to stress you about, there are a few little tips that will make your potential employers more than happy, and that will define your personality also in the view of the employer. So the first thing is please be on time, because that really shows your interest in this job or not. Second of all is talk to the potential employer with a professional tone of voice, okay? They are not your friends. So make sure that, yes, you can be, you don't have to be stressed, okay? You can be yourself, but they are not your friends. Third thing is your look does matter. I know that now with the Gen Z is a little bit different. You know, the way people have been acting, the way people have been acting during and post-COVID because of the office from home versus office working in the office itself, but you have to appear professionally. So don't wear shorts or these kind of things. And everything in the interview is about storytelling. So it's about yourself and how you see design and how you see your projects, okay? That's extremely important. So a few tips that we're gonna run through about both interview and portfolio. The first thing is that your portfolio and your interview should be built as a book, okay? You are telling a story. So you will start with a quick introduction about yourself. It's very important that people understand why you choose design, for example, what brought you to ID, okay? And you need to adapt to whatever type of interview you're going to go to. So if you apply for a job in drafting, your storytelling and your portfolio will be built to answer the needs of this job. If you are going for an interview, which is especially for designers, okay, people are looking for designers specifically, then you will adapt accordingly also, right? So you will start with a quick introduction about yourself as an introduction. Then you will move on to projects, and you will be very selective about the projects you want to display, okay? You always finish with your favorite project, because this is what is going to make you feel alive the most, and people can really feel that. So you start with a list and you finish with the most wanted one. And then you will finish with a conclusion of what is your next step. I want to be higher in this company because of that. I want to train myself in being better in that. I can see myself in a few years as a director, art director in an interior design company. Always finish with what's next. That's about your story. For the portfolio itself, you should have two different portfolios. One with text, which is the portfolio that you're going to send to potential employers before or after the interview. Usually you will send it after the interview, okay? And the one without text or with minimum text, which is the one you're going to present when you're going to do the interview itself, okay? People shouldn't have to read. It's not a presentation that you're not presenting when you're in an interview. You are there to present. So there should be really minimum text, and you should tell the story about what you're showing. So to start with, okay, when you start with a portfolio, sorry, I think that's, okay. So when I say no text, this is an example, for example. So few of you accepted to send your portfolios for me to review. So I've taken few examples from those portfolio. for you to review. So if I look at this first page here, okay, you can see that this student or this junior has put a resume here as well as the content of the portfolio on the same page. This is too many information, whether you're sending the portfolio or whether you're speaking, you're in the interview itself. You should have one page for your experience. And if you want to put the content after, you put the content after. But in the interview itself, you don't even need to put the content page because you will explain it yourself. That's the first thing. On top of that, there is too much text. Whether it's for the portfolio itself or the interview itself, every single line should be as one line. Okay, you don't need, this is far too long as a text. If I take another example on the right side here, you can see that it's very difficult to read because of the background color and the choice of fonts and the choice of color of font. Okay, so this is not good for either or. Now, when we say no text or minimum text, when you see a page like that with this amount of text, people will never read. Me as an employer, I will not read through that. This is showing me that you are not sure of what you want to say. That's why you have to put a lot of explanation. One sentence should be good enough to explain what you have to say. And in an interview itself, you don't even need to put the text or even more minimum. So these are examples of pages that are too busy for someone to read as a potential employer. Let me move on to the other one. This is a good example. So this is an example of portfolio that you will be sending to someone that will receive an email from you. So there is a little text, okay, but a lot of visual that explains the text that goes along with the text. And for the portfolio that you're going to present yourself in an interview, you should have no text, and you will be explaining what is it that you are showing in this page. So there are a few things also is you are not graphic designers, so it will be easier for you to use templates. Because templates are very well done now, it will help you to have the proper order, okay, of what you want to show. It will show you the graphic basic, but then you need to adapt it and customize it according to your needs and according to your personality. Okay, this is an example, canva.com. And this is the example I want to show you in particular because this is the one I'm using today to do this presentation for you. They have a lot of templates, different templates. And again, everything is customizable. So it's easy for you to choose the best representation of your personality and your portfolio. This is the example of the one I'm using today. Why I'm showing you that is because if you look at it, if you go to Canva, for example, and you look at it, you will see how I adapted from their original design to the design that fits my needs. Okay. There are a few other examples that can be used, but I mean, these are just few examples, but you will see that most of them have too much text. If you look in the little thumbnail at the bottom here, you will see that they have a lot of text. So these are mainly for sending, okay, versus presentation mode. So your portfolio will be divided in 3 parts, okay? The first part is introduction. Introduction is about yourself. It's very important. What is it that you are? What will make you make me, sorry, as an employer, choose you versus the 9 other resumes that I have. And for that, the best example I have, I don't know if you're familiar with Simon Sinek, but Simon Sinek is kind of a coach, okay? And he has the theory of the why, how, and what. So people will buy mainly the why, not the what. So why is, why did you become an interior designer? What is your story? And your story is unique to you. And that's what will make you the best contact with the potential employer during the interview. Then the how will be the studies. What did I study? What software skills do I have? Okay, that the company might need. And then finally, the what is what I deliver is the best project because of everything else. It's the consequence. So when I'm going to talk about me, okay, so my name is Delphine. I'm an interior designer. I grew up in the south of France. I started very young to be interested about design, and I started sketching as long as I can remember. Then I decided at the age of 6 that I wanted to be a scenographer. But my parents, because they thought that scenography would be too difficult, because it's a filmmaking and everything industry, which might be difficult when you don't have the right people to link you or hook you in, they decided for me to do interior design. So I widen my professional skills. That's how, etc., etc., etc. So I'm explaining why I become an interior designer, and I'm explaining why after interior design does interest me. Okay. Then you can have a page about very briefly your education, because again, you're going to explain about your education. I did the École Camondo in Paris. It's a 5-year school, master in interior design and furniture design. And what I learned and I like the best about this school is that they teach us in depth about concept and how concept is the key to the entire project. It's the beginning, but it will give the whole story about the entire project, etc., etc. Okay. You don't even have to talk about the tools that you know in the in the interview itself, but people can read it on the screen. You shouldn't say what people can read, basically. You're displaying the page, but you tell a story. There's a massive difference between the two. You can stop me at any point of time, and you can write, by the way, in the chat, any questions that you may have, and Faye will relay the questions to me later. Okay. Meanwhile, I will continue, but don't hesitate if you have any question to pop them in the chat box. Then after you talk about yourself, so this is introduction, you will move to the second part, which is the development. The development is about your project and what is it that you have to say about your project that will make them and you as a designer interesting for the employer. Okay, so you start with the project and you always finish with your favorite project. How are you going to select your project? First of all, you don't need to show a lot of them, okay? Because interview is about the way you present your project more than the project itself. So if you have, for example, different categories of project, let's say workplace, residential, you can show one of each, but don't put everything, because less is more, basically, okay? So it's about being interesting, being the best projects that you want to show instead of the quantity. You need to show your concept skills. That's what makes a good designer. An employer, of course, will be worried that you know your softwares properly, because this is the way you're going to express your concept. But the key is the concept. So this is the one that should come first, okay? You'll show your drawing skill via your layout and your 3D perspectives that you will explain, but you will only show what is interesting about this project and what you have to say something about. So if you're showing thousands elevation, but you have nothing to show apart from the fact that you know how to draw an elevation, this is not interesting for us as an employer, okay? We need to understand that you answered the brief properly, that you understood the client, that you had the empathy of knowing your client the best, so you can answer to their need the best. You're not designing for you, okay, to put projects in your portfolio. You're designing to answer a client requirement. That's extremely important to understand. So at the end of each of the projects that you're going to present, it's important for you to finish with what did you learn about the project, or what did you like about the project? I like this project because it taught me how to answer to an handicapped person within a residential facility or whatever. What I like about this project was the openness of the client. From the brief that he gave, he was able to change his mind because I managed to convince him through my concept that I had a better answer to his needs than his first requirement. So always tell the story behind the project you're showing. And to finish, if you really want to display your skills in terms of softwares or in terms of knowledge, okay, you will put it in an appendix. So if you don't have time during the interview to talk about that, then the employer can look at your slides later, go back to your slide and see what you are good at and less good at. Knowing that each employer, especially when you're a junior, we know that we hire junior and we know that you have to learn. And it's a process. And I'm still, after 26 years, learning every day. So we are not expecting you to know about everything. This is not the point. What is interesting for us to know is that you have the right mindset to become the best version of yourself as an interior designer. You have the potential to understand the client needs and translate them into a proper concept. So few key things is that the way you're going to display and lay out your portfolio, best thing that I will recommend, but it's your choice, is not to use any background, because any kind of background, unless it's a plain color, by the way, but the background will take away from whatever image you put on top. And what you want people to focus and have the wow effect about is the image you're going to show and what you're going to say about what you're showing, okay? What is it that I must see in the image you are showing? So again, showing an elevation doesn't serve any purpose if you don't have anything to say about it. So when I see pages like that, those examples of portfolio, where on one page I have the concept, I have 3D, I have a layout, I have elevation, this is a killer. This is a no-no, because we can't understand everything at one glance. It's too confusing, okay? Same for this one. On top of that, here we have the background and we have the fact that it's not really readable because of the font again and the color of the font, okay? So this is what you shouldn't do. This is what is okay to, it is nice to do. So presentation in a kind of magazine way, where if I'm sending my portfolio, I have a small explanation about what I want to say about this room, and don't state the obvious, because your employers are designers, so they know. So say or write what people cannot see in the image. That's important. This is a good version of a portfolio that you will present as during the interview. So there's no text at all. There is a small text here saying living and dining room. Okay, that's it. No text is needed because I can explain everything. So this is the entrance. From the entrance, I wanted, and the view is on the opposite window here. So I wanted to be able to have 8 guests sitting comfortably. Still, I want to be able to lay down watching a TV, which is on the opposite wall. Explain why you designed the layout the way you designed it, and the decoration, of course, the decoration, the design, the finishes, and everything. Okay. So for each of the project, you tell the story. You can have few pages on one project. It's not about the number of pages. It's about how you're going to display them. I can have a 10-page portfolio, which I'm going to stop reading after 2 pages. I can have a 60-page portfolio that I will read through from the beginning to the end. Okay, this is all depending on how easy it is to read and how your story flows from one page to the other one. It's the same as a book. If the story flows nicely, I want to read more. I want to know what's going to happen next. Okay, it's exactly the same for your portfolio. If the story is told properly, from the requirement of the client, okay, the brief and the requirement, I want to know, because you tell me the story properly, I want to know what is the concept you came up with and why. Okay, and from that concept, how did you apply it, translate it into your design, whether it's the layout or whether it's the visual, because the visual will show us how you apply material, etc., etc. Okay. So again, this is not a good representation of a portfolio because on this page, you have too many information shown at once. So it's overwhelming for someone, and I need to deep dive into the details. And the older you get, the more difficult it is. Trust me, even use my eyewear. Okay. The second page, the interesting part is that the design and layout of the page is good. Yet, because I'm explaining the context, okay, mid 50 engineers, 6 blah blah blah, eclectic design, etc., etc. Here you are saying the story, you are explaining who's the client and what they are looking for, okay, but you are not showing me who's the client and what they are looking for. So it's confusing. You're showing me your translation, you're showing me your concept. So you should first explain about the client. So here, what I would have liked to see, for example, is he like fine wines. Ooh, put a bottle of wine or put a bottle of a nice wine cellar. Occasional entertaining 4 to 6 guests. How do I entertain 4 to 6 guests? So you can show a picture of someone in the living room with 5 or 6 guests around. Put a context. And okay, so then you will start your, and by the way, if you're looking at an office, this is residential project. If you're looking at an office project, you will always start by explaining who's the client. That includes showing the logo because it will show the corporate company colors, for example. You can take a picture of their website, for example, to show also the kind of mood and feel they are in. You need to explain the services. So maybe, I don't know, if I sell bags, you can show a bag into this page presentation. Again, it's about the context. So I explain who's the client, what they like, what they are looking for, okay? And each of the project, so the way you're going to structure your portfolio, for example, I will start with an office. And then I can show the rest. Later, yeah, I'll start with an office, but I can have food and beverage, retail, hotel, residential, whatever, okay? I'll start with the office, always give an introduction. And I start with the office because of that. I will explain the context. Who's the client? This is Star Alliance project. I will not read whatever is here because the interviewer can read about it. But you have to say that the headquarters of this Star Alliance company, which is an airline-based alliance, was in Frankfurt until today, and now they are removing the worldwide headquarters into Singapore. So I want to base they want their image to be based on their VIP areas in the airport lounges. Yet it is still an office, so I need to make sure that I adapt to the needs of their office operationally, and I cannot have something as luxurious as a VIP lounge in an airport because I'm talking to employees, not to clients directly, because my clients will never come to my office. I give a context. Then I'll give my result of how I understood and how I interpreted the concept, what I want to use, what I want to say to the client. So for me, what is important is that Star Alliance, being an alliance of few airline companies, it touches worldwide projects, different communities from different backgrounds, different cultural bias. So how am I going to make sure that I stay neutral enough? I want to be as neutral as possible to be relevant to all these kind of different clients. On top of that, because I'm an airline, I want to make sure that I integrate eco-friendly elements, especially furniture and material, because airlines are challenged today about sustainability. I explain my concept. Then I explain the building itself. The building, the way I studied the building, I will look at where the source of lighting is coming from, where is the entrance, where is the elevator arrival, and if I need to put a pantry, a cafe, a kitchen, depending on what type of project it is, I need to make sure that I have my water point that is somewhere. So I explain that. I explain that I understand about the building. There is a reasoning behind my layout. So I start explaining this reasoning. Then, because of all that, I decided to put the office on this side because it's where the best view is of the surrounding. My meeting room needs to be next to the entrance for outsider visitors to be able to arrive in the meeting room without crossing the office. I'm putting the pantry next to my water point and next to the meeting so I can offer coffee quite easily to my guests as well as my reception. And my employees will have to walk to the pantries and gather together, meet together, and not disturb others that are working in the office when they are talking. There is a reasoning into everything I show and about the way I build my project. This is the most important. Then, as a result, you can see that all the offices are along the window, the employees in the middle, etc., etc. Okay. Then if I have to say something special, so some of you are showing me elevation to in the portfolio because you want to show that you know how to draw an elevation. As a designer, we are expecting you to know how to draw an elevation. What we don't know is, again, what is your reasoning? And this is how we're going to judge if you have a good potential as a designer or if you are too mainstream. So in this project, for example, what I thought was extremely interesting is that they had to host different kind of function and different type of meetings. Therefore, I decided to create 3 meeting rooms that can be combined into one to host 60 people. There is a reason why I'm showing you that. And there is also, I can also explain, for example, that the fact that I can combine 3 rooms together to create a 60 packs meeting room allows me to save space by not multiplying the number of meeting rooms. So people understand my reasoning, that I have a real concept behind what I do. And then you show the perspective. By the time you show the perspective, because you told the story the way you say it, everything will be logical and flowing. So this is, this is the result of what you've been explaining to the client before. You don't need to show 1,000 perspectives. Again, just show the perspectives that you feel are relevant and are the most interesting for the client. So, of course, in an office, the reception is key. In the reception, I have the company logo. So when people arrive from the lift, the first thing they see is the logo and they know that they are in the right office. Yet it's combining different airlines. So I want every client to be able to see himself in the airlines that they have here. There is a waiting area as I want to welcome my guests before I take them to the meeting room. My meeting room, as you can see, is see-through because I'm showing openness of the company. Yet I have blinds, so if the meeting needs to have, if it needs privacy, I can pull down my blinds and then people arriving will not see who is inside the room. There is a reason for me showing this perspective. Same will apply with everything else. Okay, so this is in a nutshell how you build the portfolio of your project. After you're going to have to transition. So in this project, before you do the transition, again, what I liked about this project was that, or what I learned about this project was that. The client was extremely happy because I answered properly the brief, doing this and this and this. Conclusion. Then I can move to the second project. For example, food and beverage. So here I'm not going to give you 1,000 projects because I guess you understood what I'm trying to tell you. So as you can see, there can be 5 or 6 pages onto one project. It's not about the number of pages. Again, it's about how you tell your story. You always finish by the thank you. So the thank you is about you again. What is my next step? What do I want to do? Why do I want to join your company? What is it that I like about your company? Because of course you prepare before you go to the interview. So you have to do your own research about who's the company, what they are doing, who are their principals, the art director, what is their direction? Are they more into sustainability, et cetera, et cetera? And of course, you link that to your interview and the way you're gonna thank them. I will be very thankful if I can join your company because I like the way you and the sustainability. I like the fact that your clients are blah blah blah, etc., etc. Okay, and then at the end, you always have to contact me, so you can always finish by saying, "I will send you my portfolio." If you didn't send the portfolio earlier, you can say, "I will send you my portfolio," etc., etc. So this is in a nutshell how you should build your portfolio and go through the interview. Do you guys have any questions? Faye, do you have any question on your side as a non-interior designer working for designers?
Not much. I think everything that you said was covered. Though I guess just being an outsider, not having a background with interior design, and then suddenly wanting to jump into interior design. And so, for example, there's not much, I don't have projects to begin with. What are some projects that I can put on my portfolio if I don't have anything to begin with?
So what you will do is like what every junior is doing. Can you see this new screen appearing? These are
Yeah.
the portfolio that I received. So you can put school portfolios. It's not a problem to put school portfolios, but again, you may display them in a different way than when you presented it to your school, okay, as a project. Because the way you presented it to your school was given by your teachers. They told you, we want to see this, blah, 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 blah. This is different. This is no school anymore. So you can take all the elements and the design that you have created for the school project, but rearranged it, relay out your presentation in a way that it looks like a professional project. Okay. So this is an example of a portfolio that I receive. All right. If I browse through quickly, what can you tell me about this portfolio? If I stop here, for example, do you have anything? You can write it in the comment box or you can unmute if you want. You're very welcome to unmute. And it's an open discussion, so do not hesitate. And it's not about breaking and being negative about others' portfolio. It's actually a constructive feedback. So if I start, for example, this is what I explained to you earlier. So it is nice to see that the result, okay, looks like the concept board. But if I had the concept board before and understood it, if this perspective was bigger and by itself on the page, it will breathe better. Okay. And the layout here is too small to be understood. Okay. So you have to explain it in a different way. Now, this is interesting. This can stay like that because I understand that this is the structure, okay, that was put together to create this room. So this can be it, but you can only have one. There's no point having 10 things like that. And I saw that there is, oh, you see, you already have others. So you can show different things on different projects, right? That's one example. For here, if you want to show construction, so first of all, construction as unless you followed the work and you learn something about the works that you want to tell the potential employer about. If not, there's no point showing a construction site unless it's part of what you want to sell to your future employer,
Just
right?
continuing off of that thought, maybe another question is if it's important to have finished products Like finish, like when the works have been done, is it important to
No,
it
no,
or
perspectives are good enough.
perspectives? Okay.
Perspectives are good enough. So here, for example, the one I show you about, this project, okay, I could have show you the finished pictures because it's a project that we have done for my company. But it's not what the potential employer wants to know more about, especially when you're junior and you didn't build especially your projects yet. If they're a school project, you may not have pictures about it. It's not important. Again, what is really, really important for the employer to understand is the way you are thinking, the way you create your concept, because this defines whether you will be or you are a good interior designer, or if you are like an average. Do I want you in my company because you the way you think about concept works with my way I see concept? Are you going to challenge me? Yes, that would be very interesting. But if you tell me the basics, this is not interesting. I give you another example. This looks like travertine wool because in the concept, okay, um, and this is what I will explain. These are some of the materials that Star Alliance is using into their lounge, airport lounge. But this is far too luxurious, okay, for a client office. It goes well in the airport lounge, but not for an office. So what I used here is the wallpaper lookalike travertine. If I don't say that to the client, to the employer, they will not guess. It could be a real stone. This is wallpaper. And why did I use that? For two reasons. I wanted to be cost conscious, first thing. The works take less time if I put wallpaper versus if I install stone. Okay. And it's more eco-friendly because I don't have to fly in a very heavy material to Singapore. Wallpaper is a wallpaper. It's okay. So you explain all that, and that makes sense. If I go back to another portfolio, for example, so we already talked about this page, which is too text heavy, and you're giving too many information on one page. Same will apply for that. I want to get one page on the concept because if you don't get your concept right, everything else won't work. If I cannot understand your concept, will show me whether you understood the client, first thing. The layout and the perspective will show me whether you know how to adapt your concept to reality. Because it's one thing to pick some nice pictures and make sure that they match well together. It's another thing to then apply it into your space, your project. Okay, your constraint because of the buildings and everything. This is good. I'm showing one perspective, one page. That's good. And if before that you explain me the concept properly, when I see this page, I will say, well done. Very good answer to the client needs and well aligned with the concept that this designer has chosen. Now, if I'm showing an elevation, it has to say something. So for example, within this page, I will have picked just this elevation of the headboard and the wardrobe because there is a smart solution in the wardrobe, which is the pull down track, okay, to put clothes hanger, and you put some reading lights here. So there is decorative light, reading light. So there is an answer to potential needs. But you don't need to show 5 elevations. That doesn't bring me anything. Any other question before I continue on other?
There is actually in the chat. So Oge, I think this was regarding my question a while ago that on showing the construction process, she claims that you're able to like showing those construction photos or the construction process shows that you're able to handle realistic projects. What's your take on that, Delphine?
again, it depends who you're going to talk to.
So
Who is
say,
who is the potential employer you're going to? If you're coming to an ID firm, if you're coming to my company, for example, and I hire you as a designer, I'm not hiring you as a construction site surveyor. Okay, I don't need to see that. You can tell me on this project, Star Alliance, I went to site, I had a weekly site meeting with the client and contractors to review the process and making sure that whatever we have designed was well applied to the site. You can say it briefly, but you don't need to show the construction. Now, if you're going to a real estate agent that does construction itself, yes, you can have a page on that, but explain why you're showing it. What is it that you learned?
right, that makes sense also. I think just taking off from my experience when I apply for different jobs before, and this is just transitioning to the next question or the next concern that Oge expressed in the chat. She said that the problem I find is that different employers look out for different things. So students or
Correct.
professionals tend to get different advice on what a portfolio should look like. Me, for instance, I have changed my portfolio layout multiple times. So I guess jumping off from that thought, should we, for example, if your theory, if you claim that the portfolio should be a story, should it be a different story for every position or for every firm that we apply for, like a customized
Unfortunately,
story?
yes. There will be things that you will repeat, but unfortunately, yes. Um, when 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 I used to have interviews, okay, um, it took me about 4 hours to prepare for each of the interview, okay, because I had to change my storytelling. There's two things: is the company you're going to apply to, the trade they're in, whether the interior design or something else. That's one thing. But you also have the person you're going to talk to. And in general, you know who you're going to talk to. Okay. If it is the HR person, the human resource, if it is the art director, if it is the CEO of the company, okay. Art director is everything about what I explained to you now. This is what we are looking for overall. And again, if you want to make sure, if you apply for a junior position, obviously they're not going to throw you into a project like Star Alliance by yourself. Okay, you will be the junior of a
Senior.
senior person. So yet this person needs to understand that you will understand when I, as an art director, explain to you, Faye, my junior, about the concept I have in mind. I need to understand that you will understand me.
Mm.
And that you will be able, if I tell you, oh, this is the concept, can you look for the furniture, the materials, and everything for me? I won't have 10 back and forth. You will get it. You will know that from the travertine, solid stone that I show you from the concept, you need to find a wallpaper.
Mm.
I will find you very smart if you arrive with this solution. So this is the kind of things we are looking for. If you, again, I hear there's a drafter, then you will show more draft.
Mm.
You will show that you masterize more draft. So everything is about the storytelling. And yes, okay, we are all different. Everyone has a different personality. Yet I can tell you that when you as an interior designer, when you hire, when I speak to all my interior designer friends and the people among my industry, we are all looking for the same thing. And this is one thing that juniors lack at the moment when I talk among my peers again, is to show their creativity, not to stay basic, not to stay on the first level. What makes you different from others is the way you think, which is unique to you. And this is what will make me hire you versus anyone else.
That's a really good statement. I just remember like one of the posts that we have on social media where it doesn't matter how great your design is. I think one of our things that we like preach is that it doesn't matter how great your design is, how you got to that design is what matters most, and your openness to learning. Because I think as a junior designer, that's what everyone, at least like I guess the Gen X bosses or the Gen X directors, that's what they're looking for. Your eagerness to learn and to overcome, I guess, some kind of pride that Gen Zs are usually plagued with, that we're know-it-alls. I'm a Gen Z myself, and so I do see the comments of Gen X people saying that we're know-it-alls. But if you can show that you can overcome that kind of pride that plagues our generation, and show that you're willing to learn, then you're already a step a step closer. I'd say that. um
I will add
Go
something,
ahead.
sorry, Faye, to what you say, which is very interesting. And that made me realize also that one of the biggest problem I see from the younger generation is the lack of ability to work in teams
Mm,
together,
yeah.
take criticism. This is something which is just normal in our job. And when I tell, for example, my employees, and you, Faye, you know that, when I say, no, I don't agree with you because this should be like that, I need, first of all, I will explain why I don't agree, which I think if it's done differently, that might cause problem. But if I explain you, I'm looking for you to try to understand what I'm telling you and don't take it as an insult, okay? But more as a, can you come up with something else that would be more relevant? And I'm looking for your answer. It's not about breaking you or being a negative comment. It's about being a constructive comment. This doesn't work because of that. And you have to trust our experience. I have 26 years of experience. Of course, I know better than you. Of course, I have 350 projects behind me. So hours and hours of work. So, but uh, you should be able to express yourself. But when you express yourself, you have to give reasoning behind it. For example, I have student or junior in my office, they come and they tell me, I give them a brief and I always tell them, do your concept board. Okay. And then we will work on it together. But first of all, go ahead. What do you think, how this brief and requirement from client should be interpreted? And sometimes what I see is an answer that will feed them, the juniors. It's not answering the client, it's answering their taste. Very different. So an employer will look at answer to the client because that's what brings money to the company. If you want to design for yourself, just do your company and buy some property and develop them yourself. If you have to answer a client, I do some projects that I don't specially like. This is not what I will do for me. But it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, the client is happy because it does answer their needs. And why they hire a designer, and this is where they see that you're a good designer, is when you go beyond the brief. So if you can explain, this was the brief, this is my concept because of, and you give one step further, that was the requirement, so I incorporate this into my concept, but I also incorporated this because I think it does represent blah, 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 blah. This is going beyond. And that's what we are looking for.
Thank you, Delphine. That's a really good insight. Just jumping off of portfolios. I guess for a last question, this
Mhm.
is from Lagila. Do we have to research about the employer before setting the before making the portfolio, because everybody has different perspectives, as Oge mentioned above?
Um, okay, me, I'm very perfectionist, so I'm not saying that you should do that, but this is just to give you an example. When I go to a presentation meeting, so for example, when I go to present my project as Star Alliance, I know it's slightly different from a portfolio, but it will give you the mindset. I go to their website, I look at the way their website is done, I look at the font they use, And I always use, if it's available, the same font, their font in my presentation. Because there will be, even if they don't realize it, there will be a connection that happens automatically.
Familiarity.
There is a
Yeah,
familiarity.
I see.
If their color, corporate color is, for example, in Star Alliance, it's yellow, black, and black, gray, and white. I will do my presentation yellow, black, gray, and white. After the layout of so what you can do if you want to save time for yourself, I will say, prepare your pages. What is it that I want to show in which order? Okay, even if it varies, this one can be, and you have your appendix. So if you have a presentation for a certain employer and you need to take one page from the appendix, it's fine. It's just up and down in your presentation, doesn't matter. But do create your story. Okay. Then after the color of the background, or if you take, for example, the one that I just showed you earlier, this one, if the company I'm going to go to is blue, it's nothing for me to change this to purple, blue, or whatever. It's nothing. It takes 2 seconds.
Right. So I guess it's more
But
of
the story is there.
showing your effort, that you did your research, that you took the time to understand your employer so that you can prepare
Yes.
the materials needed.
You have to tell them, my favorite project of yours is this project. It means that you've been through the website, you looked closely at the project, and you have to explain why.
That makes a lot.
Or it reminds me, when you explain about one of your projects, you can, for example, I'm explaining about Star Alliance, and I will say, oh, it reminds me about the project you've done for X company, which uses the same kind of material, or has the same, using sustainable material, or it shows that you really deep dive into who they are, and you really want, because you won't waste time in a company you don't want to work for. Okay. So if you show the employer that you did invest time into the company, then the employer it's a no-brainer for an employer. Honestly, it's a no-brainer. If the employer is looking for someone, you win.
That's a statement, Delphine. Well,
It's true.
I guess that is it for the webinar workshop. Thank you so much, Oge and Legila, for attending our webinar. This will be posted on YouTube. I will send the link and also a survey to see how much you've enjoyed this, and if you have any suggestions on what webinar topics we can also have. That would be great. And then we'll see if we can make time for that. We'll definitely make time for it, of course. We just need to see which topics are worth talking about, or common themes.